Alright, by now I think most of us can agree that both legendaries and mythics are quite important to the state of the game and just progression in general. And a lot of the fan favorites are in the legendaries or mythics, like all the lords from all the Fire Emblem games. I think it's worth revisiting this topic and hopefully helping you guys make solid decisions with regards to legendary heroes, legendary hero remixes, and I guess mythic heroes to a lesser extent.
Let the lesson begin.
What's up guys, Akariss here, bringing you another Fire Emblem Heroes video. Today's video is not a should you pull type of video, at least specifically for this banner that you see to my left, but more or less a kind of, when presented with a banner like this, what are the decisions that I should make that will help me make good decisions towards whatever I might be playing for. That's kind of what I'm trying to get at here. So I'm going to show you guys a lot of the visuals, a lot of the work that I've done in the past few months, and in like combination with all the other videos I've made to hopefully steer you in a direction that doesn't lead to regret. And when I say regret, I mean we get limited amount of orbs per month. You want to make sure you use those in specific areas that don't end up going to waste, which something like this may very well be wasteful, so to speak. For some, for sure. For others, maybe not so much. This definitely does apply when it comes to like gambling in the gacha, permanent banners, seasonal banners, and even legendary and mythic banners when they decide to really kick you in the butt with the statistics. So it's important to look at all those variables and come to a good decision. So I'm not going to specifically talk about this banner and whether it's worth pulling, because I think at this point it's pretty easy to say, hey, are you merging one of these legendaries? Are they mid-merged? Did you not finish them from years ago? Did they just happen to show up a couple times? Then you probably should finish them. If you're playing for Arena, or they're very good in AR in their seasons. There's a lot of those sort of questions that are specific to accounts, and it's almost impossible for me to recommend that to anyone, really, just to say, hey, you should pull. So I'm not going to look at it like that, but I'm going to help you actually come to a good decision based on just how they are as heroes, what they mean to the game, and maybe to you yourself. All right, so before we jump into specifics, smash the like button, sub if you haven't already. It helps out, it really does. Keeps this content coming in a very F2P way of doing so. Aha, see what I did there? Alright, so yes, Legendary Hero Remix just came out today. If you've pulled, it's not really a big deal because this video is still going to be important even for the future ones to come. So let's talk about what exactly all this means. First of all, thanking, I believe, FEH for this graphic as always. Really nice way to display this information. We know when a lot of these legendary heroes come back. We can even kind of predict when their like remix happens in a sort of like their weapon gets refined and their skills get refined, whatever preference skills they have. So you can use this as a sort of like indicator of that. For example, in November, we know that Legendary Marth and Legendary Tiki are next in line for skill refines, with Everyone 2 and Binding Shield 2, I guess, which again is like, okay, cool. So, and then of course in January we have like Erica and Lucina getting upgraded, so forth and so forth. Okay, so what this means is that looking at current Legendary Hero remixes, like the one that we just looked at, you can take something like Hector and say, okay, he's coming back in February. So with the Spark 40 summon guarantee, this is a very good way of planning ahead and saying, okay, my Legendary Hector is like +5 or +6, and I want to finish him in time. And this is a good way to just look at this and be like, okay, I'm going to add a merge here with the guarantee of 160 to 200 orbs or whatever you might commit, and then do it again in February. And by being able to budget your orbs, you're not going to like go all in and regret your decision because the gacha decided not to give you what you wanted. So this is very important. Looking ahead, always keep in mind this sort of graphic. You'll find this stuff on like Reddit. You'll find it in my Discord if you're in there. And of course, it's a private Discord, but if you're subbed, then you can Twitch subbed or Patreon subbed. You can definitely access it and get in touch with me for this sort of thing. Anyways, back on topic here. The graphic and the planning ahead is very important for being able to decide what to do. But also, it's not just these old legendaries that are important, but it's also in comparison to some of the newer ones. And this ties into, honestly, the rankings that I've done in the past month. And by looking at that, we can say, okay, should I be targeting the new ones? Should I be targeting the old ones? So I did compile them all here for you. The only one that I feel might need an update from this is basically Legendary Ephraim in the fire rankings. I believe he's basically on par with Lilina and Edelgard now, somewhere in between there. So again, looking at the fire one, Ephraim is definitely not a last place legendary anymore for fire. It's Roy, it's 100% Roy. And Ephraim moved way up because of B-Dual Cavalry 4, letting him score higher. Kanto, null guard effects. He's a really good hero now. He deserves to be up there in the top tiers. Unfortunately with Hector, I don't think his place has changed. Osteopulse is really too is nice, but it's still very situational, and Thunder Armads will really decide whether he gets to get a bump up. The other ones are going to be better than him. Ephraim definitely went from bottom to top. And with that being said, you can basically look at this and my rankings is a good way to look at it, but you don't have to agree with that. You can look at these heroes and be like, okay, should I be looking at old ones or should I be looking at new ones? And there's still quite a few that haven't been upgraded, such as Tiki and Erica and Marth and such. And because they haven't been, you should be keeping your eye on them, and if they're mid-merge or even high-merge, it might be a good idea to start looking at these remixes and updating them as soon as possible, adding merges to them as they appear. And Hector might be a good example of that. He's going to get an update, so maybe his Thunder Armads will make him much better. There you go. That could be a good reason to do so. But another thing to think about isn't just Arena, because all of these rankings were made with mostly Arena in mind, because Legendary Heroes have a huge impact when it comes to Arena scoring. But that's not the only important thing. A lot of these characters are very strong in AR as well, and AR defense. So you look at something like Legendary Lyn there, who's obviously last place when it comes to Arena, because she's not really going to be that good in Arena. But if I was to consider them more for AR usage, then someone like Legendary Lyn is actually pretty solid as a win legendary. Not like Legendary Sigurd comparable, let's not go that far. But she's definitely better than something like Legendary Micaiah, in my opinion, on defense. And possibly even better than Legendary Lucina, despite change of Future Vision being that good. So you'll see, definitely got to consider a lot of this stuff. But the thing is, you don't need a +10 Legendary Lyn on defense for it to be good. As an example, AR defense improvements. You could really get by with a +1, just like Legendary Sigurd. Super impactful on on defense whenever it's win month, win season, and at a +1, even at no merges, it does a lot. So looking at remixes, for example, you could look at Lyn here and pick up a 1 or 2 copy and really using her on defense, but not necessarily for Arena. This is very important for considering where your goals lie and not just summoning a bunch of legendaries for no reason. They get other benefits too, like being Arena bonuses and AR bonuses and using them in season for those particular reasons, but I would definitely consider 3 very important things. 1, if they're your favorite, then you probably don't even need to watch this video and you've already made up your mind, so go ahead. It doesn't really matter where they lie in the meta, right? Number 2, Arena usage. This is if you bring them to +10, and you got to consider their potential at +10, whether that's before refine or post refine. So again, Lyn is a good example of this. Pretty awful in Arena despite her upgrades. Solid in AR though. But the thing is, those merges don't matter too much in AR as they would in Arena. So again, Arena usage, very important. Would look at these rankings as a go-to for that sort of thing. Scoring matters, and how good they are in terms of combat matters quite a bit. One other important thing I want to mention, I did mention it in these rankings overall as we review them, is if you choose to use, let's say, a high-scoring legendary, but one that doesn't really contribute much to, let's say, Arena gameplay, for example, Tiki scores really well, but is a complete drag, you can make up for that with basically using good combat, but maybe lesser scoring units. For example, I use a +8 Ninja Lyn for quite a while now, despite using Tiki and lugging her along. Because I have that super powerful carry unit, I can afford to lose a bit of score because Tiki scores high and Lyn doesn't have to score as high, but can essentially carry the matches. In an F2P way of doing this, you can basically look at something like Tiki, combining it with some F2P options like Innis or even Winter Felix, depending on the build, George. There's like these good Hannah. There's some really solid like F2P options that you can work with here that you can combine with some bigger drags. Now, in contrast, let's take F Grima, who's obviously a lot better as a combat unit, but scores pitifully. And you can do the complete opposite there when it comes to arena. So you max out your Grima, get as much score as you can out of her, but she can actually carry your matches in arena, and therefore you can just lug around some clowns, so to speak. Like you can invest in stuff like Benny or Flame Emperor or Valbar, or whatever. Like you basically get the idea. These like high scoring units but don't have to contribute much to the game. So you want to balance that out in something like arena. But as always, you don't have to be playing for arena. You could just be summoning for your favorite. But the final point is, of course, AR as the last thing to reiterate here. A lot of these characters are solid as like +1s or unmerged. Legendary Sigurd, Legendary Lilina, Byleth, Chrom, and now even Lyn, like they're all pretty solid on defense, and they don't really need much merges. The older ones are very nice because you can use a remix to pick them up and then splash them on your defense. But with legendaries, the newer ones, I'd be very careful making those sort of decisions because, well, I have to warn you guys before we even hit the next legendary or mythic banners that happen, as always, that you can be on the bad side of this spectrum of summoning, and it will happen eventually. It only takes it only takes one bad session to basically uninstall the game, is what I would say here. Many people I know have quit the game because they finally landed on the bad side of the luck spectrum. And that is, if you look at it 99% as an example, you have to consider the worst case. That is 1 in 100 people, a lot of people play the game, that spend about 900 orbs to get a single copy of, let's say, Claude, because I'm just using colorless on Legendary as an example here. What that means is you have been playing for 3 months Heroes, getting 300 orbs per month, and all you got was a single Claude to show for it, if you were targeting him specifically, which is always why it's important to look at whatever is sharing on a Legendary Mythic banner, and then make a decision based on that. Okay guys, that basically is going to cover my discussion here on remixes, Legendary Heroes, their importance, and how you should go about like targeting them overall. This is kind of like a whole review of what I did last month, but also tying it in with remixes and how that affects you. Try to use the guarantee of a remix. Try to look at some of the older Legendary Heroes that might be due for a refine, and try to maybe consider merging those up, even if they might not be Sigurd. Despite how powerful he is, they don't have to be that strong to be very good. And I'm speaking as a player who uses Fjorm, Tiki, and thankfully Corrin, but she's definitely not top tier when it comes to win legendaries. So, yeah, I hope this helped you out, guys. And you can let me know in the comments below what you play for, what your goals are, kind of similar to a goal video. Just let me know how you look at these sort of banners, how you approach them. Share your thoughts, maybe help someone out. Thank you guys always for watching. Thumbs up, sub, and if you love the content and you want to support it, Patreon's the best way to do so. See you in the next one. Peace.
It's over.